All right. Ready?
Yes.
Recording. Okay. So I can still switch my SI joints as I want,
Mm-hmm.
though it tends to be it tends to prefer to remain slightly jammed to either one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I can change it now.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it feels like I have to relearn how to walk and move and do everything once again.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an apt illustration of how bone mobility is not the issue.
Yeah, it's the brain. It's 100% the brain.
That's right.
Well, I gotta say it's amazing. It's no longer technically jammed. Now, is it likely to become jammed again?
No.
That's good.
Your comment prompts me to wonder. I issued the program the five-pointed star
Mm-hmm.
along with this program. Five-pointed star is a symmetry program.
Uh-huh.
And with your sacrum switching sides, it seems to me sooner or later you need to get into the five-pointed star in order to cultivate the symmetry that gets your sacrum to float more centered so that you don't tend to get turned to one way or the other.
Yeah, it still feels like it moves left and right unevenly.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to change and improve that.
Yeah. And you do have some work still to do in Unit 2. We know at the very least hamstrings, which is a symmetry move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big one because the hamstrings attach to the ischial tuberosities, your sit bones. And when you bend forward, they pull both sides at the same time. So that's a definite symmetry action pattern.
Right. Yeah, I noticed when my SI joints started actually moving left to right, I got this incredible stiffness down my spine, and it's beginning to melt away. But man, that was very strange, and I started feeling pains that I had not felt in a while since starting the program.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it almost felt like it did when I right after the accident. I had a lot of stiffness and pain in certain locations.
Mm-hmm.
But not as bad as after that, but still. Well, I gotta say, it's quite amazing. It's finally come free. Do you think that this is the first time, basically, it's been free in 9 years?
I wouldn't speculate. On what basis could I speculate?
I don't know. Once the sacrum is jammed from an accident, I mean, is it jammed, and does all movement kind of hinge around that it being jammed, or does it have an asymmetry and then it slowly becomes more and more jammed as time goes on?
Well, I think it's some of each. The jamming occurs because of the weight bearing and movement stresses which all converge at the sacrum. So your question, does everything hinge around the sacrum? The answer is yes, because it's your central weight bearing focus.
Mm-hmm.
And when the sacrum is turned, all those weight bearing forces which converge there produce a lot of sensation, which prompts muscular contractions to ensue. So that's the other part of it. And so a person can get worse over time just because they're habituating into those patterns of muscular contraction.
Hmm. I see.
And that in turn creates more discomfort and more contraction. That's why this can turn into a seizure of sorts,
Yeah.
as it did with me more than once.
Me too.
So,
So,
this is the most calamitous thing that can happen in the accident domain.
yeah.
The turn sacrum is the most calamitous thing that can happen. And you get these contractions up the spine as this reflexive reaction to what's going on in the sacrum. And even if the sacrum comes free, the reflexive reaction is by then habituated. And so that means you have to encounter it in the process of freeing yourself and straightening yourself out. It goes all the way up to the base of the head and even into the cranium in terms of like the whole inside of the head contracting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that leads to obsessive thinking, mentalizing, solution seeking, analysis. All of these are like an animal trapped in a steel trap trying to get free.
All right. Well, speaking of that, I noticed that I started feeling incredible levels of rage, irrational levels of rage, when my spine was moving, and I felt it like in the center, or at least what I thought was the center. What's that about?
Well, I can only look to my own experience on that. As you know, I experienced all three major emotions. Anger, profound sorrow, and anxiety. All three. And what seemed to me was that the discomfort of the situation and where I was feeling it made me hyper irritable.
Yes.
It was just like trying to, every irritation was adding something onto an already intolerable situation.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really nasty, evil, cruel condition.
You said it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm still on Unit 2, and I did sacral decompression because I can still feel when I'm not actively working on keeping it loose. It does tend to go to one side or the other.
Yeah. The reference to sacral decompression is a convenience for recognition purposes. But the compression is an effect, not a cause. So really what you're working with in that action pattern is the muscular contractions that cause the compression. You're not working directly on the compression, you're working on the muscular contraction patterns.
Right. So would you recommend I not do that anymore at all?
No, you do it as you feel inclined.
Okay.
What I found is that I've had to do a stint of sidelying sacral self-decompression on my other non-jammed side, because the coordination, the integration had progressed so much on my previously jammed side that it was now and is now still the better side. Now I've made significant improvements doing my other side, so it's catching up in equivalency. So that's a heads up. Okay. You notice that on your other side, your left side doesn't feel as put together as your right side because you put all that attention into your right side.
Right.
You may have to spend a little time doing it on your left side, and you'll be able to tell before and after the improvements. You'll just feel like you're like things are lined up better, and the transmission of force goes more straight through instead of getting kind of higgledy-piggledy dog leg off to the side.
I know what you mean, exactly. Yeah, it feels, let's see. Would you recommend doing it on both sides? Because it still tends to be jammed to the right slightly.
I wouldn't. I would say as long as the right side is your greater problem, do it on the right side. At a certain point, when you feel like the right side feels better put together, as I described just now, then you will naturally go to the left side because the left side won't feel as right.
One second, I'm just writing this down.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Other than that, I've been doing Tongue Mudra, Sidelying Tongue Mudra, and it's strange. It's hard to feel my side now.
You've been doing Sidelying Tongue Mudra. Well, that's a surprise.
It's hard to feel the location where I'm exactly on my side, and I wanted to work on that today.
Well, the last instruction I gave you about Tongue Mudra was sitting up, doing floating palate side to side, and that was with your with your focal aim far back, so that you would feel the effects in your spinal column. So you have caught me a bit flat-footed, telling me you've been doing it side-lying.
Yeah, I've been doing it sitting as well.
Okay. But I'd say if you're having trouble locating your true side, are you doing it side-lying on both sides?
Yes.
And when you're preparing to find your side-lying edge, are you doing it with the head position method or the Tongue Mudra expansion of the cranium method?
Head position.
Okay. So
one second. There's something with my phone.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Being stupid alarm issue. I thought I had turned it off or something. But all right. So yeah, I've been doing it with the head motion mainly. I've been trying to do it with the Tongue Mudra as well, but not with the same success.
Okay. So are you up for hearing the key to doing the Tongue Mudra as your way of finding your side-lying edge?
Yes.
Okay. So the characteristic of the Tongue Mudra is the expansion that occurs in the nasal cavity. And you want the largest, softest expansion, not a strain of expansion, but a soft or easy dilation. The dilation goes all the way down the throat when you do that. So then, with your head lifted, dilated, when you do the turning movements of your trunk, you're looking for the trunk position that allows the greatest free dilation. That's it right there.
Okay. So let me see if I can recreate that on the ground.
Okay.
All right. How's that?
That looks pretty good. You switched your technique.
Yeah, I was doing it Tongue Mudra.
Well, yes, but I'm talking about that just then, what you did, arms forward like that.
Yeah.
And that technique induces a turning of your ribs between your shoulders, whereas just rolling on the ribs doesn't produce that difference of direction between shoulders and trunk.
Hmm.
So we look for that because we want to have you with your trunk centered and your shoulders in the position that gives you side-lying support. If your shoulder and chest of one side are both forward, your tendency is to roll backward on the top side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. And that was a circular way of coming down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're doing that movement action pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. Certainly it produces a lot of change in the spinal column and ribs, both the relation of ribs to spinal column.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's in fact the Glomphosauros and licking the giant ice cream cone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And you remember that slower and slower works better than the same speed all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It looks like I'm on my side because it feels like I'm slightly forward.
Yeah, it looks like you're very slightly forward, top side forward. And also your legs are not in the position I would expect. The top knee would be behind the underside knee for the
It is.
pelvis to be side-lying.
Mm.
Again, you're looking at a trapezoid from the side. That is the long side of the trapezoid is down the back, across the side of your pelvis. Let me say that better. Across the back of your pelvis. That's the long side. And the short side is the distance between your knees.
Mm-hmm.
So since you're resting on one of the sloped sides up the side of your leg, that means that the long side of the trapezoid would be off vertical.
So how about now?
Well, again, do it by feel. You take a full breath and suspend the inhalation, and then push the top knee forward and back until you have the easiest, largest breathing expansion.
I see. All right.
See, it's always the top knee ends up hooked behind the underside knee.
That felt good. I felt some movement through an area of my spine that I don't remember feeling it before. Just gonna take a little rest here. We're going to the other side. Uh, that felt really good, actually. Yeah. While I was having all those SI joint problems, it was harder to concentrate on the best tongue mudra location.
Yeah, draw your knees in a little bit more. That's better.
Now this side is harder because I have this blockage right in my ribs. I'm gonna see if I can do something about that. All right.
So this time you didn't do it with the arms straight forward.
No, no, I didn't. Try doing it entirely with tongue mudra.
Now the tongue mudra is just a marker for the ideal location when you do it with straight arms. That feel different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's harder on this side, I think. Still have this knot in my shoulder.
Yeah, that's why it's especially important that you get yourself well positioned on this side, because the weight of your head lifted engages the whole top side of you. If you've got contractions through there, this is a good position to teach yourself out of the contracted state.
Well, I got some minor changes just from the dragon's breath there.
Mm-hmm.
One more time.
Mm-hmm.
Do this one more time. maybe one more time.
Okay. Check your elbow.
How's this for my side?
I get the impression that you're a bit behind your side center.
I thought I was slightly behind, but I had less shoulder tension here.
Yeah, but that's not a measure we're looking for. We're looking at whether or not you're on your side-lying edge.
All right. Feels like the top of my ribs and the lower portion are not moving in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to get that fixed.
Yeah. Many of the sections create effects in the mid to upper spine. So sometimes you have to do lazy eights to get at it, or straight and bent leg integration is another. The twists that untwist. See, there are many that create effects in the rib cage. So
yeah,
if you just go through them in due order, you get a certain amount of change with each.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many things can go wonky.
Boy, tell me about it. Yeah, people don't have any clue when things are working well, how much integration is involved in that. It's only when integration becomes faulty that we begin to notice the different ways things can go wonky.
Sad but true.
That's why aging is so problematic for people, is because that's where all the faults of integrity accumulate over time. So the older they get, the more time there has been for faults to accumulate.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's kind of like, I don't know if you've had this, an older automobile where one thing after another breaks down.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Better to handle them along the way instead of letting them accumulate.
Very true. Fortunately, there are very few things that can actually handle it. I mean, the best mainstream advice is yoga. which, as you said, is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the time?
7:40.
All right, got a few more minutes. Wanted to ask some questions. About getting to doing floating palate with tongue mudra with my tongue at the back. It's hard for me to get my palate floating when I put it way at the back.
Yeah, so start with the tip and close to the front.
Okay.
And then get yourself floating and rocking, and then gradually bring the tip of your tongue further back and reinstate the rocking each time. If you find at a certain place you can't, that's your limit for the time being.
Yeah, I can only get it about 40% of the way to the back limit and keep it rocking.
Okay. It also may be a matter of using less contact pressure. And also remembering that you're lifting the palate away from the tongue as much as lowering the tongue away from the palate. Where you lift the palate is by tipping your cranium back a bit.
Alright, this is something I'll have to work on more on my own. Thank you again so much. And yeah, you think this is the beginning of the end of the journey?
I certainly hope so.
I see the final destination. I just have to go the distance and get there.
Yeah, and there'll be a period where you're doing Unit 3 versions, and then the 5-pointed star.
How long do you recommend? Did you recommend Unit 3 until I felt massively more integrated?
You'll feel changes occurring. When you stop feeling changes occurring, then you've plateaued and you've gone about as far as you can go with those action patterns. That's where you would switch to the 5-pointed star.
Okay. I still feel that I have a bunch of Unit 2 work to do as well, but yeah, now hopefully that cork is coming undone and it'll be much easier. Okay. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, and yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome.
If I hadn't found your website 1 year and 3 months ago, I would still probably be in the same amount of pain as I was then, if not worse. It's a scary thought.
Yeah, I know. Think of all the people who are in the same plight.
I know, which is why I'm actually considering a career shift to do this someday. Don't know if it can be in the next 5 years, but I'd like to work towards it.
Well, you've gotten a good head start with the instruction I've given you over others who come into training. It's just a matter of shifting more into direct feeling out of mental analysis. Mental analysis is looking at something. And we're talking about feeling as it.
Right.
There's a place for each, but the primary discoveries come from direct experience, not from analysis.
I can see how that's the case. You have to get all of the faculties working together.
And that, on that topic, the tetraseed procedures play a major part. We've just done a bit, you and I, but those things are major. They have created so many releases and shifts in me as I've practiced them. It's just things that weren't occurring any other way. So it's a big deal, and it's really an integrated system. The tetraseed procedures, the somatic education exercises, tongue mudra, and the sound works that I've created.
Okay.
Which are some of the new ones are now appearing in the upgrade to the SI program. You saw my announcement of the new download?
Not yet.
It's buried in your email then somewhere.
No. When did you send it?
A week or two ago.
A week or two ago, I was having some major problems with sleep, so may have missed it. But I'll check it out.
Okay. Worth downloading and replacing the segments.
All right. Alrighty then. Well, as I said, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.